It's a pleasure today to introduce and welcome back our speaker and guest today, Bharat Patankar, who's an intellectual and activist based in India, who was last in person with us actually at Cornell in the sociology department in 1981. So his late life partner and Dr. Gail Omvedt and Bharat Patankar together led, and Bharat Patankar continues to lead Shramik Mukti Dal, a mass people's movement that has organized farmers and laborers in the western Indian state of Maharashtra, India's second most populous state with a population of over 100 million. Bharat comes from an intergenerational heritage which links the 19th century visions of Savitribai Phule and Karl Marx with those of the 1940s Prati Sarkar or parallel government, as well as Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, to the new social movements facing the 1970s emergency under the Congress, to the contentions of the 21st century India and the Hindu majoritarianism of the Bharatiya Janata Party. In particular, Bharat is one of the architects of a prevailing framework for equitable water distribution. He has organized drought-affected villages and dam-displaced communities towards alternative development models with respect to dams and irrigation. And these movements have linked and continue to link working-class livelihood needs with feminist, anti-communal, and anti-caste or Dalit, Bahujan, and Adivasi solidarity commitments. Bharat's articles have appeared in journals such as Race and Class, Bulletin of Concerned Asian Scholars, Critical Asian Studies, and Economic and Political Weekly. And his books also include Human Liberation, The Songs of Tukoba with Gail Omvedt, and Sakhi poems, among others. And as a scholar of South Asia, I want to underscore how together this body of work has really been important for thinking about kind of building a materialist theory of caste. And our time with us today, which somewhat auspiciously falls during April, or Dalit History Month, and for those of you who may not know, this month was inaugurated in 2013 by Dalit women who were inspired by Black History Month. Bharat will reflect on his decades leading Mazdoor Kisan, or laborer-farmer movements, and land and water struggles over development and climate concerns, while forging dreams of a radically transformed economy and ecology. And he will speak to the theory and practice of leftist and liberation work, forging solidarity across caste, gender, religion, and class struggles. And I'll welcome Bharat to now speak for about 15 to 20 minutes, which will be followed by a conversation between the two of us for about 20 minutes, and then we'll open it up to your questions and engagement with our speaker today. So welcome, Bharat.
And thank you to the organizers, workers, endorsers, and people attending this program for arranging my lecture and coming to my lecture to have communication about movement in India. I'm going to talk about a dream of people in India, particularly in Maharashtra, the dream about a new society, dream which sees the classless, stateless, gender-free, classless society, at the same time society based on ecologically balanced and renewable-based production processes and healthy relation between humans and nature. These dreams are coming from two sources. One source is people's movement themselves. Another source is the people who worked with, thinkers who worked with struggling people, and those toiling people who dreamt for their liberation, creating a liberated humanity. It starts from Buddha to Mahatma Jyotirao Phule, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Savitribai Phule, Karl Marx, and dreams of people who struggle in Indian independent movement beyond the ouster of British rule from India and looking into the dreams of creating a liberated humanity, changing the Indian society into a different society, different kind of a relation between humans and nature. So these dreams are also dreams of my colleagues in Shramik Mukti Dal, and the group which we started in 72 before that was Magoa, that is Review. Shramik Mukti Dal is Toilers Liberation Organization. And also these were the dreams of myself and my late companion, Dr. Gail Omvedt. But these dreams were not only seen in theory, these dreams were not only seen as in abstract, but these dreams were the dreams of people, so the people struggle for bringing them into the practice. Any dream, when it is going to be coming to the practice as a whole, it would not come within 1 day or 2 days or 1 year or 2 years, because it is a question of changing whole society into a new society from all its angles. And if society is to be changed from all angles and all sides, including its relations with the remaining nature, then you have to do some practice, you have to do some movement to change it in various aspects. So I'm going to put you how people struggle for changing this society on the various fronts. First example I would give of equitable water distribution. So this movement is based on considering water, of course, not only considering, but it is a public resource, it is a natural resource which is not anybody's property. But today it has become a property of somewhere in the hands of capitalist class, somewhere in the hands of the big landowners. But this struggle was to maintain it as a public property, public resource, and it would be given equitably to every individual, every family, for its minimum livelihood with a minimum pleasures, minimum satisfaction of the minimum needs. So we calculated through our scientific investigations and study how much water is required for using on agriculture to have a minimum satisfactory livelihood. And on the basis of that, we said that at least this much water for using on land should be given to every family, every individual, whether the family or individual holds any land or not. Even landless, even the marginal farmers, even the farmers who own only half an acre of land will get the same amount of water, minimum livelihood water. And if it is available in more quantities, then it will also be used for ecologically balanced relations between nature and human beings. And even the bigger landholder would get the same amount of water. So he can give his land, part of his land, to the person who has got more water than his ownership of the land. But everybody would get a equitable, not equal actually, equitable in the sense that every region has got a different rainfall, every region has got a different kind of a groundwater availability, every region has got a different soil structure. So in that manner, we are saying equitable and not equal. So this struggle is going on for last 30 years. In the beginning, people in the state machinery, the ministers, the authorities, the scientific establishment, everybody started saying that what the hell is this? This cannot happen. On what basis you are saying this? So we had done experiments on the farmers' lands themselves. We had data collected from the scientific studies world over, and then we put forward our figures saying that you go and study this, and if our proposition is scientifically correct, then only you accept it. Otherwise, we will say that okay, we'll withdraw. But struggle continued, and at one point, it was a big mass mobilization, indefinite sit-in in the capital of Maharashtra state in India, and government had to admit to the people's demand that this would be implemented if it is proved through the discussions between government and a representative of the people's movement. And now almost 3 counties, you can say, in a US language, it is implemented around 3 lakh acres of the land, and around 4 lakh people population is going to be getting equitable water distribution. But this is going to be the pilot thing. Now we are demanding for generalization of this all over Maharashtra, all over India. So this is the first thing which we are proposing, but this has got another corollary, that we are proposing a different kind of method of agriculture. We are saying that it should be organic agriculture, it should be an agriculture which is not producing only, doing only monoculture, but it would produce vegetables, food grains, and people should get all balanced food, a balanced meal out of it at home, and they should cultivate also some things which would replace the fossil fuel based production. So they should replace wood by steel. They should produce something which should replace the synthetic fibers for the natural fibers. So this replacement of the fossil based productions should be replaced, and it should be resulting into the decentralized renewable based agro industry all over the country. So there are also experiments which we have done on that basis, and people have started doing some aspects of it, practicing some aspects of this, and trying to generalize this alternative. Second thing is about so-called development-induced displacement. So whatever is called as development in this era of imperialism and capitalism, that development is based mainly on fossil fuel. The renewable energy production, which is also called as a renewable, its whole structure of windmills, a structure of the harvesting sun, all these structures are based on fossil fuels and not fossil fuel, fossil material. So the material used is so much coming from the fossil materials that actually the energy which is produced as a renewable energy, wind energy or solar energy, is the positive effects of it are nullified on the other hand. So we are giving alternative, trying to give the alternatives to these projects and reducing the displacement. So we are not saying that there should not be a development. We are saying that development means what? Development means that not a big project and having a grandeur kind of a things which would be overpowering over the human beings, but it should be fulfilling needs of energy in a very different way. It is possible to do that. And that's why we are giving alternatives for how to have a protected forest. How you manage protected forest, what you do for that. If the forests are managed in such a way that it becomes only thing for industry which is uh, tourism industry, then there is no point in saying it is a protected forest. If there is going to be some ecological thing, ecological balance is going to get created, ecological degradation is going to be nullified, and if ecology includes human beings also, along with the animals and plants and etc., which is going to get protected. If you are going to oust human beings and say that we are creating an ecological balance, that is not ecology. Ecology includes human beings also. So about that we have given alternatives. About dams also, for reducing, for example, Narmada Dam, we gave alternative which was reducing the displacement up to the extent of 75% by changing the height of the dam. And that actually was accepted by the people in Gujarat, but it was not accepted by the Narmada Bachao Andolan. I don't know. We never understood the reason for that. But that we are doing this. We did this for many other dams, and we reduced the displacement in bigger way. The third thing which we are doing is that the coal-based power projects, we are opposing them. So we are saying that it should be renewable-based development of the energy, electricity, etc., should be produced on the renewable manner. And Tata's and Ambani's, they had 3,000 megawatts each production in one of the areas of Konkan of Maharashtra, nearby the ocean, and the land which is the saline land, for more than 1,000 years, people have developed a method of converting that saline land to the land, cultivable land. And there is a elaborate mechanism for that. So that land, which is highly productive now, for many years, that land was going to get affected. There is inland fishery that was going to get affected. And people were going to get displaced. So we put forward alternative and opposed these two projects. And it was such a big mass movement and such a strong argument, strong scientifically based alternative, that both of these corporates, capitalists, imperialists, which are in the imperialist link, they had to quit from there, and land has to be given back to the people. So these are some examples which I can cite for that. About wind energy also, we said that wind is a public resource. It is not a property of the owner of the windmills company, and so that company can use it free of charge. So if you are using it for energy production, then first of all your structure should be coming out of the renewable material, your structure of the windmill itself. If that is not coming, at least it is a renewable based production. It is better than coal-based production, but even then, what you are giving for the benefit of people who actually, to whom actually wind belongs to. So we force the government to make a law that they should give 15,000 rupees per megawatt installment to the village where there is a particular kind of speed and velocity of the wind to harvest wind energy. And that law is made in Maharashtra. It is a very innovative and different law. So these kind of some examples of the movement. Other movement is Jati Mukti Andolan, which is caste liberation struggle. So we brought together all the left movements and Dalit liberation movements in Maharashtra together. Shramik Mukti Dal took lead and proposed that all the oppressed castes, not only Dalits, that all the oppressed castes should take part in the abolition of the caste. So unless and until you abolish the caste system, there is no point in repeatedly just struggling against atrocities on Dalits, atrocities and conflicts between the oppressed caste themselves. Like Baba Sahib Ambedkar said, that caste is not the binary kind of exploitation. It is a hierarchical exploitation, and that's why it creates division of laborers. And if division of laborers is there, you cannot abolish caste, neither you can abolish Brahmanism, nor you can abolish capitalism. So in that sense, if at all caste is to be abolished, it could be abolished only on the basis of alliance of, like Mahatma Phule said, Shudras and Shudras. That means the downtrodden sections and women. Stri, Shudras and Shudras. Women, Shudras and Shudras means downtrodden and more downtrodden. So that thread we have taken in as a basis, and we were successful in mobilizing non-Dalit people coming into struggle against atrocities on Dalits. We were successful in mobilizing, of course, more percentage of people are non-Dalits. So more percentage of people who are non-Dalits, they were part of the caste annihilation conferences. So this was the first time happening in India. And this was a whole success in all parts of Maharashtra. Big conferences took place, and we are going to continue this experiment because it was successful, and we are going to propose some practical, there is a program also is decided how these castes could be. There is a caste non-biased kind of a production systems could be evolved or not. So if you work, all the caste people, all the oppressed caste people are working in there, then the caste annihilation would be helped through their practice also. So that program is an elaborate program of this movement. Cultural sector also, we had in 1999 Vidrohi Sanskritik movement, Chawal. That means revolting against the established culture and having alternative culture. So that alternative culture is going to come from people's culture, standing on the shoulders of people's culture, folk songs of the women, folk songs in Dalits, what we call as tamasha in Maharashtra, as a people's drama, which was performed by ex-Dalits or today's oppressed caste, most oppressed caste. So a street theater, and we had this combination of bringing all kinds of art, sculptures, then street plays, then poems, then ballads, singers, and painters, all this together, and creating a different kind of a cultural milieu in which you would be taking forward the people's culture, and you would be ousting the dominating culture, a Brahmanic culture, oppressive culture, capitalist culture, patriarchal culture, which is there in established society. So that movement is still going on. In the part of that movement, we had a movement to oust Brahmanic forces which were controlling the people's ancestors, which are not gods, but ancestral deities, or what, I don't know what to call in English, but people don't consider them as gods. They consider that they are our ancestors. And they are women ancestors and men ancestors. They are revered, and every year people go there and congregate. So if these things are there, then why you have a necessity of some kind of a heaven, and there are gods in heaven? That kind of argument is given not by us, but by the saint poets, on which Gail has written a lot. That saint poets also say that these are the not gods. These are the people who had done something for the society, who had done something for liberating society from the sorrows. Right from Buddha onwards, people have said that it is a struggle for freedom from sorrows. So those people who struggle for freedom, achieving a freedom from sorrows, those are the people. We should not be converted into the gods to be bowed against but loved to, and Brahmanic control over those gods should be abolished. So we were successful in doing this in Pandharpur, which is the biggest pilgrimage place where nobody goes and demands anything from Vittal. It is also we did it in one of the another place like called Kolhapur, where a woman ancestor, a mother ancestor is there, which was a plot to convert her into a goddess in the heaven. So there the Brahmanic domination was excluded. All caste people are employed for maintaining the thing, and all caste people are given entry to meet the ancestral mother or ancestral father, and likewise. So also the old people's festivals are there, which are equitarian festivals. The equitarian clans before are also depicted in very many festivals. Bali Raja is one of the symbol of equitarian clan head. And in Kerala, the Onam is a symbol of that. Likewise in Maharashtra also, it is symbolized as a person who had equity, led the society where equity was implemented, and that kind of person should come back again. Most important movement is of women's liberation, which started in our rural areas movement. And this rural areas movement was in tribal or native Indian communities sector. But it spread all over Maharashtra, and almost along with the women's liberation movement came up with the modern ideas in US or in Europe. Almost along with that, that movement started in early 70s in India, in rural areas where my companion Gail, my mother, and many other women like Nagmani Rao and etc. They went around the villages, and women showed the courage to come against the male domination, and they showed the courage against talking against the domination at home, in the family, as well as social domination of men. One outcome of that was a struggle of single women who were deserted in quotes by husbands. So they said that we have got right to raise our families as a single family head and a woman family head. And so her signature should be considered as a signature of the guardian, and they should not be forced to bring the signature of the fellow who ousted them from their houses. So that right was established. Government then was forced to give a free plot to them, and extra plot for gardening and producing some vegetables and housing. So that was the first time in India that single woman struggle was coming up. They showed the daring to do that. They were most oppressed women, and so they were coming back to their father's and mother's house, and there also they were oppressed because they were hated by the family. They becoming burden on the original family from where they went. So this independence was achieved by them. At the same time, women's property right, equal property right to women. This struggle was part of the struggle for developmental rehabilitation of the development affected people, and it was considered that the shares of the original land would go like this. If there are four brothers, after father dies, then four brothers and two sisters, then and a mother, then it would be four brothers will have four shares, and fifth share would go to sisters plus mother. So they were amalgamated with mother, and that was the law. So we said that no, this cannot be the law. So the sisters should get equal share to the brothers. And we forced the government to make a law, that there is a law now, and which was approved by Supreme Court of India now, that whether or not the person who is original land owner is alive, these divisions would be equal divisions of the land property for sisters and brothers. So these two concrete gains were achieved by the people's movement, women's movement, and male colleagues were not going to the stage. They were helping to organize, but they were not supposed to go to the stage. Even people like me who were generally leading the movements also were not and still don't go to the stage when it is a women's event. Women also showed a courage to come out with the sickle in hand to show to the government that if you don't look towards and do something for controlling these people who are teasing us and they are molesting us, then we will use our sickles and we will directly have our own justice. So that was very effective, and women showed the courage to come to the collectorate in big numbers, thousands of women with sickles in every woman's hand. So there is something which is shown there. There is one picture showing those women in morcha, in the march. There was a movement against communalism, which also was a different movement. We had this organization called Hindi Hai Hum, Hindustan Hamara. That is Iqbal's poem. Iqbal, who loved both Pakistan and India, even after he went to Pakistan. And he had written a nice poem, Sare Jahan Se Acha, Hindustan Hamara, Hum Bulbule Unki, Jo Gul Sita Hamara. So that is Hindi Hai Hum, Watan Hai Hindustan Hamara. So it is not Hindustan, but it is Hindustan. So it is a movement for rights of Muslims in India, but movement composing non-Muslims. And we were successful in mobilizing non-Muslims for this in big numbers, sometimes bigger number than Muslims, rarely at least, to have sit-ins and marches for justice to be given to the Muslims, Muslim people, Muslim women, Muslim men and women, etc. So this set good example. There is some setback to this, but still people have started in Maharashtra, which are our colleagues, which movement is called as Salokha. After all these, the struggles were given against the oppressive measures by the today's government. Some 2-3 years back, there were struggles against these laws which they brought in, and they opened the jails also to put people in them on the basis of not fulfilling the criteria. So those struggles also are going on, and these people are coming together, are coming from different religions. And final thing I would say is how this is happening. So this is happening in two ways. There is a treasure of contributions, theoretical contributions given by history to us, right from Marx, Rosa Luxemburg, Eleanor Marx, and Clara Zetkin, and Lenin, etc., Mahatma Phule, Savitribai Phule, Dr. Ambedkar, and many other people, and many people in many countries, they have contributed to the theory of liberation, right? From Buddha onwards. So it is a question of having liberation from sorrows, and liberation, not only liberation from sorrows, but having a society which is loving each other, and having a society of ecological balance, and having a society having healthy relations between humans and nature. But this theory should be there. And our Magova group, which was founded in 1972, we revolted against all the left parties then, that they are just dogmatic about the theory which is given by the people in the past. So we said that this theory cannot be a stagnant thing. There should be a study further, and if we think that this is not sufficient theory, then you should do innovations, you should come forward with the new theories. There is nothing wrong with saying that Marx made mistakes in all these 3, 4, 5 things. There is nothing wrong saying that that whereas Zasulis made mistakes in such and such things. I can take many names. So Phule also made mistakes, and Baba Ambedkar must have made some mistakes. There is nothing wrong in it. So we said that we will put Marx also under microscope. That was our spirit, our movement, and still it is a spirit. We will put anybody, ourselves, under the microscope. So this theoretical openness and theoretical creativity should be there, because the world is changing and new inventions are showing many new aspects of the nature, new aspects and new laws of the nature. So you cannot go to Darwin every time, and because so many things have gone ahead of Darwin. Many things have gone ahead of Darwin. So this treasure plus our contribution should be there. And this contribution is not going to come like after Paris Commune. Marx said that our concept, which we have put in manifesto of the Communist Party, is wrong, that this struggle is going to have a democratic elections, and then the same state would remain there, and the people would win the elections, and the society would change. But communards showed that if there is a society which is a bourgeois society, then state is a bourgeois state. And state is structured like a bourgeois state. So there is a bourgeoisness in the state itself, state structure itself. And so they showed that that should be smashed. And new state, a proletarian state, should be created. There was no concept of human liberation, there was no concept of end of racism, there was no concept of caste system, abolition of caste system, but at least this much was accepted by him openly, and said that we change our concept now, because communards show that, not a person showed that. The movement of the communards showed that. And when Vera Zasulis from Russia, she wrote him a letter that your followers in Russia say that Russian meals, that is collective farms, cannot directly go to the socialism. They should go through capitalism, stage of capitalism in between, and then the socialism would come. What is your opinion about it? So in his 60th year of his age was there going on, and he studied Russian language, and he studied Mirs, and then wrote to her that it is not necessary that these Mirs, which are collective farms, should go again through a capitalist stage, and then would be again collective farms. They directly can go to socialist society. So this was contrary to all his followers in Russia. So this kind of a self-criticism should be there. So it was there in even in Buddhism, in Buddhist sanghas, women were not accepted. And when one of the bhikkhus, Ananda, he said that women are demanding entry to the sangha, so he said that how they would come to sangha, then sangha would have bad effects. So Anand asked Buddha that if what are women different basically from men gaining a life without family, having a life without family? Do you think so? So he said that no, I don't think so. They have equal capacity to lead a life without family. They are not inferior to men. So then you cannot oppose it. So he accepted that though emotionally he was not ready for that. So this is the thing which should be learned from all these people, and that we try to follow. And people give you theory. So we contributed means people contributed. And we should mention that what is the part of the theory which came from people, and we gave it a shape of words, in words. So this process also is necessary, and we are having a passion from 1972. That is a peculiarity of our movement, that there should be a passion for development of theory, and people also should be participating in the development of theory, and they should know that we can contribute to the theory, and whatever they are saying. For example, in one of the I'm coming to the end, one of the songs, Marathi song by the woman who didn't know how to write. It is an old song. Many women who are having the what you call the old thing which you make flour out of grain while yeah grain grinding thing. They said they used to sing the songs while doing that. So it was that in Marathi, Ram Ram Manu, Ram halakya dilacha. You are saying Ram is a great Ram. Ram is having a cheap heart. Why, you are asked? Why he is cheap-hearted person? That because he is not of the level of Sita. This is written by women who are not read, who don't know how to write and read, but they know Ramayana, listening to the other people, and they have their own critique of Rama. So this is coming from those women. Saint Soirabai, who is untouchable woman, and she suffers all the atrocities of untouchability, and still she writes poems which are dealing with philosophy. And she says that whether if you and me are both are humans, then how can you say that you and me are different? So you and me are the same. You and me are human beings, like that. So there can be many examples. And so passion for theory could be created in people who are not very much educated, people who are not contributing in a written form. They contributing in an oral form, and we should draw upon that oral tradition also. So that a strong cultural and theoretical movement, if it is interwoven together, I think that if that becomes the international trend, because this change is not going to take place at a national level, this change is going to take place at international level only, because society change of society in one country is impossibility. It was impossibility, it is impossibility today. It is a world system. So in that sense, I think that if this kind of experiments these are experiments actually. These are experiments to go towards achieving the dream in practice and in theory. If these kind of experimental movements going towards the dreams are taking place in all over the world, they are taking place in many countries also. There was a green movement in this country also. There were left greens which are not there now, but I had attended some conferences when I was young, the green conferences in Oregon. I had been there. So it is possible in every country, and we can hope for worldwide change from and liberation from the existing society, clutches of existing society, and achieve the liberated humanity. Thank you very much.
To kind of follow up on one of your last comments about thinking across borders. And first, in the context of Maharashtra, that's a really important question in terms of the migrant figure. We've talked a bit about the idea of Marathi Manus. So I was curious, in the history of Shramik Mukti Dal and organizing with farmers and laborers in the region, how the other has shifted over time. So for example, we've talked about how the kind of Lungi Utao movement that discriminated against South Indian migrants in earlier iterations of the Shiv Sena, then later to the Bihari migrant, and now increasingly the Muslim other. So could you talk a bit about how you've organized around the migrant?
Yeah. Actually, there are migrants from Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu, no, Kerala. Kerala not in working class, but there were migrants. There are Karnataka, etc. But there were migrants in big number from Maharashtra also. There are. The two migrants from Maharashtra itself are from two areas. One is drought-prone areas where the crops are not sure. So there is one crop or no crop situation is there, and in the high rainfall areas, they have one crop and no other crop, because the terrain is such that you cannot have watering for the other crops. So thousands of textile mills were basically not migrant workers coming from outside. They were Bihari workers, they were UP workers, but basically they were coming from Maharashtra itself. The port workers, people who were lifting weights and etc., they were from Maharashtra. Workers and the porters on the railway stations were from Maharashtra, particularly from oppressed peasant farming castes and untouchable castes. And I think that during that period of Lungi Utao period, defeat of Shiv Sena candidate by a candidate which was a communist candidate. She was not elected, it was a woman. She was not elected because she was a communist, but she was elected because she was standing against Shiv Sena candidate. And from Girangaon, what we call as a den of migrant workers in Mumbai. So from there it was defeated by not only by Bihari and the South Indian workers, but also majoritarily Maharashtrian workers. So we don't want you. And that was a big blow to first blow to Shiv Sena. So there are struggles of working class which were all these people were together. And this was a tradition, particularly in textile workers of Mumbai, that the differences between the origin of state didn't matter there. Differences in caste mattered only in one of the departments of the mill, but not generally speaking. So these workers had history. But later on, when textile workers, textile industry got into crisis, and those workers went to the villages, so all capitalist new corporates came in and started building new things in all the working class areas. Now working class areas are not there inside Mumbai. Working class areas have gone outside Mumbai, into the beyond actually the suburbs also. And I think that uh, that strategy of Shiv Sena had to be left alone by them, and they accepted Hinduism, or uh, what you call it, Brahmanism, Hinduism. That was accepted by even during Bal Thackeray's leadership. So why they had to shift? They had to shift because this was not working. So there was a brief period, definitely, as you said, Pungi Bajao, Lungi Uthao was the slogan, but that was a brief period of 3-4 years, and which was ended by mainly by struggles for the textile and engineering workers in Mumbai, partly by chemical workers. At the same time, there was an alliance between the migrant workers and from areas from where they went to Mumbai. So this never happened. It happened during the historic textile strike of 18 months, and when workers came to their own original areas, and there was drought. So the people who always remained in the villages, and their brethren who had come back to villages because of the strike, they came together and started a movement for eradicating the drought. And this is how the equitable water distribution comes up. So it developed out of the alliance between the workers and the people from whom they came out. They came together, and there were rallies in Mumbai, there were rallies in rural areas also. So this alliance showed that it is possible, because whenever the water, supposing in one county water came from one of these schemes after the struggle, people left Mumbai and came to rural areas. So if you see now that wherever irrigation has developed, through struggles, people have left Mumbai and came, and they are doing agriculture. So the answer is a different kind of alliance of people themselves against parochialism, and alternate can be only alternative developmental pattern. The same thing is about Hindu-Muslim kind of a strife. So actually, during Babri Masjid toppling, after toppling of the Babri Masjid, we had a big campaign in our area, in almost 6 districts, that we are one, we are Indians. So we took Phule as a base mainly, and Baba Saheb Ambedkar, and we said that who said that these are different people? Phule wrote a ballad of Muhammad Paigambar. Phule said that for getting liberated from the caste system, people accepted Christianity and Islam. So we took these icons which people had in their minds, and there was almost 2 to 2.5 lakh people. I don't know, in India, American language, it would be 200,000 people gathered together and saying that we will end Brahmanic casteism and communalism. And there was an oath taken, no speeches, nothing. There was oath taken by them and said that come now and we challenge you to bring about split amongst us. So there were no internal strifes after that. So this was one of the biggest experiment in Maharashtra. In big numbers people came. But that should be done by everybody. That should be done by everybody.
So to follow up on that, I guess I'd like to ask you, any conversation right now in the context of India has to take into account the rising Hindu majoritarianism, the ongoing anti-Muslim violence that's happening in spite of some of these Hindu-Muslim solidarity campaigns. So could you offer us a kind of anti-caste analysis of communalism? So as part of these conversations, if we're trying to understand how this plague is not going away and actually it's intensifying, what is the anti-caste kind of perspective on understanding communalism, both in India but as a kind of defining factor across?
I think that this whatever took place in Shaheen Bagh and support to it by non-Muslims, and more in Maharashtra, I would say it was that that was carried forward in Maharashtra to the district levels also, Mumbai and district levels. So there, all the communities came together and said that we are not protesting for Muslims, but we are protesting as Muslims as our part. And we are sitting here, so if you want to arrest us or do something to us, you have to do something to everybody, every community in the society. So that out of that, this concept of Saloka came. Saloka is cohabitation. Togetherness, yeah. So that concept came, and recently, even some 8 days back, in Maharashtra there was a Hindu-Muslim shrine somewhere where people used to gather for years together. Means before independence even they were there, gathering there, and they used to have feast, non-vegetarian feast. And somebody came and they started coming in and said that this is not a Muslim thing, and there should be no non-vegetarian feast there, and we are only vegetarians, pure vegetarians, and etc. Not from the other angle, but from a religious angle. So I can be a vegetarian without attaching religion to it. So that is different kind of vegetarianism. But there people had gathered in big number and said that this is the tradition of Saloka. This is the tradition of companionship which is going on there for years together. We are not going to allow you to break it. And surprisingly, it was a big mobilization. People didn't move around and had rallies, but people spontaneously came and defeated those people, converting this into the majoritarian Brahmanic kind of ideological hangovers and domination on that festival and that function.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so another question kind of unrelated is, for example, unlike the US, as compared to the US, in India, there's a really strong worker consciousness. So for example, the strike as a kind of tactic of resistance here may be more associated with progressive or leftist movements. In India, the strike is a tactic used across the political spectrum, across the ideological spectrum. Mm. So the BJP, the right-wing conservative party, also has a trade union associated with it. Yeah. So I'm curious then, in the kind of work that you've been doing with Shramik Mukti Dal, what are some of the conversations that you've had with people to distinguish, especially given how the BJP is sort of co-opting the language of anti-caste struggle? How are you distinguishing when you're organizing with workers and farmers your perspective and approach that centers?
Yeah, the thing is that this concept of the movement itself is that we are aiming at a dream. If we are aiming at a dream of liberation, human liberation and equality and abolishing caste, gender inequalities and having a different society, etc., then you have to leave the current life. So workers have to struggle, aggregate laborers have to struggle for getting their better working conditions, getting better wages, and those struggles are forced upon you. But you can do one thing that we are doing, that those struggles could be a chain, it could create a chain reaction, that it could be related to the long-term goal. So if you are saying that how many years we are going to do these struggles, so if we are going to struggle for this, then why not add something to it so that some of these struggles we will not be forced to do, because we will change the system itself. So the series of converting the struggles of working class and agricultural laborers into the series of changes in the structure itself. So if that is there, then there is no struggles which are going round and round around the wage rise, around the working conditions, but the struggles would be changing the origins of the trouble. So that policy we are adopting. For example, agricultural labor struggle, textile worker struggle. We had proposed a different alternative to the automation. So where one machine was replacing 300 workers, we said that you can have an intermediary solution to this, and you can have alternative employment strategy for that. So you can do the both. You can have the industry going on, and you can maintain the employment as well as you can reduce the pollution. So that was that textile worker strike of 82-83 was such a strike which was not for wage rise. And many people have mistaken about that strike. So I written that in the article which was shown in the slide about the textile workers' contribution to the working class movement. And that working class, that struggle also gave rise to people's struggle in rural areas, I told you. So if that connection is there, if the organic farming people are coming together with the worker struggles in cities and industrial cities in the USA, there should be that should be the possibility which should be explored. So like those people working in the textile mills said that no, our land should be given water. Why the hell we should go to the cities and do employment there and get ourselves exploited? If water is given to our land, we need not go to anywhere else. So, and that has come true. So this kind of a new strategy, which would connect the intermediary demands or immediate demands to the long-term changes, policies which bring about long-term changes, then only we can come out of this. Otherwise, and this would not be accepted by the communalists. This is not definitely accepted by them. That is the experience that they would not. Because our struggles include women's liberation, our struggles include caste annihilation. So working class movement means no racism should be mentioned, no casteism should be mentioned, no women's liberation should be mentioned. Then BJP also can have a union. If you are not having that meaning of working class struggle as a class, when it is not only a class, everybody is belonging to some caste, there is a hierarchy among the castes, women workers are there, and etc., etc. So if that is another aspect of it, that how you unionize recognizing this internal exploitations also. Every man is exploiting, even though I am women's liberationist in ideology, I have not changed 100%. I don't know whether I am going to change till I die. Because I don't know, my generation is old generation. If maybe this generation men can do that, achieve in their own lifetime. I don't know. But I have changed a lot. So these leadership in the non-communal, non-racist leadership should consider this, so that then there would be no competition they will not stand in the competition at all. So that is the solution. That is the final solution to it.
Yeah, I have a lot more questions, but I want to give folks an opportunity to ask questions of Bharat. I also wanted to say that it was very refreshing to hear you make those comments about the space for change and the space of mistakes and scrutinizing, and kind of separating some of these movements from the so-called founders or thinkers, especially in this moment where we're so quick to either valorize or condemn thinkers for mistakes that they make. So that was really refreshing. Questions? If you I think we have a rotating mic, but we could probably hear you too.
Thank you for the talk. I really enjoyed the sort of very broad but detailed view of social movements in India. And I think my question was on the point you made about the movements around the Narmada Dam and how the conflict on the dam, from my view of someone who knows very little about sort of agricultural movements, has always been portrayed as a conflict between the government and the people, and not as much detailing in popular media about sort of the fissures within social movements themselves, like the divisions and differences in the social movements. And I was wondering what space that has, and if you could speak about that in how we imagine resistance and transformative sort of politics today. What are the sort of differences? I mean, in this particular instance, say, of not having the dam at all and having a dam, but just also to use that moment to reflect on broader social movements in India today.
Actually, there is two things. There are droughts. There are drought-prone areas. In every state, there are drought-prone areas. So, as far as people's movement itself is concerned, or alternative social strategy also should consider what to do with those. We are the people who, I didn't, for lack of time, I didn't mention that. We were mentioned by Narmada Bachao Andolan people as the pioneers in building small dams. We built a people's dam, a very small dam of 2 villages, and we fought with the government saying that this is our right as a people to build a dam. You cannot challenge our right, and you as a government is elected by people. So you cannot say that what right you have got to build a dam. So that kind of a very difficult struggle we fought, and we mobilized the resources to build the dam, and people built that dam that's controlled by people even now, run by people, Bali Raja Dam. Bali Raja is a symbol of equality, that's why we give the name to that. But that example was given by them, but how much drought eradication was possible with that dam? Because rainfall is very, very low. Rainfall is 300 millimeters per year. And 300 millimeters per year means at the most 500 cubic meters per person. And one person to have his basic livelihood satisfactorily led on land requires at least 1700 cubic meters of water. So from where this water would come? We should address that question, because migration because of the drought is very, very big than displacement because of the development projects. It is in crores. This is in lakhs. So we have to find a middle road. Like Buddha found a middle road. So you have to find a middle road. So if you say that this is a manageable kind of a rehabilitation, so you force the government to say that you are not going to fill the gorge unless until these people are rehabilitated completely, gotten the land, gotten the water to the land, and houses built and etc. Then only you will fill the gorge, means you store the water. But we are not opposing the dam in the other way, that we feel the need of water to be given to the drought-prone areas. So our struggles were drought-prone areas people and dam-affected people coming together. And we were saying that this is not scientifically prescribed, it cannot be a scientifically prescribed size of the dam. So you minimize, you minimize it as much as possible. And in Narmada Dam, it was 75% of the displacement was going to be saved. It is a big thing. And so we were proposing that canal should start at the canal, from where the canal was starting, from the dam, the wall should be built up to the opening of the canal. And in the rainy season, the water should be taken to the drought-prone areas, stored decentralized manner in those areas. So 75% people would be saved from the rehabilitation and the displacement. And these people should be rehabilitated first, and then only water would be stored. And this we have done in other dams in Maharashtra. That Urmodi is one of the examples. The Chitri is another example where before they getting the land and they getting the alternative place, they getting the total alternative township coming up, they were not allowed to be displaced forcefully by the government. But because they tried to bring here also in other districts of Maharashtra, they tried to bring a big morcha of drought-prone area people onto the dam where we were stopping the dam named Urmodi Dam. So work was stopped for 6 months. And they tried to bring all these people here because we want water. They were in drought-prone area, so that was true. But people didn't come because they were part of our water movement, equitable water movement in their area. So they said that these are our people. So they should be rehabilitated, bring them here, rehabilitate them here, and then only they can allow you to build the dam. Why should we support you? We'll support them. We are supporting them. So this has happened. This could have happened because we went to Kutch and Saurashtra area, and people said that we are ready to come with you, with dam evictees. We are ready to come with dam evictees. But that was not agreeable to the leadership of that time.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Yeah, so we have, I think we have a little bit of time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Aisha? Or David? Oh, okay, I saw you raise your hand. Yeah, go ahead.
Again, that was a really good presentation. Thank you for that. I want to ask you about, the land management system that is dominant today across the world and even in India, that comes from this very Western idea of individual land ownership and property commodification, and whether in these struggles, agricultural contexts, whether collective land ownership or alternative land management models you've tried to kind of advocate for those.
Collective land ownership is a different kind of a proposition. But the methods of agriculture, which were there in India and in our state also, up to 1967, when I was doing agriculture of my own family, in those days it was organic farming. And that was not taught to us by any technologists and anybody. Traditionally we were doing organic farming. And that was broken by the incoming hybrid seeds, along with that then pesticides, along with that the chemical fertilizers. And now that broke the whole chain of interdependence between the helpful organisms in the soil and etc., etc. And the agriculture is not a sustainable proposition now. Now with the water going there, what we are saying, and people in the drought-prone area proved before that the crops which could be taken with small amount of water and alternative ways of giving water could be there, so which could save water. And they proved before the agricultural universities that these crops could be cultivated and bumper production could be taken without having a large amount of use of water. And the methods which you are using in agricultural universities, they are wrong. And these experimenters amongst the farmers, they were refused loan by the banks because agricultural university said that it is impossible. This is a Tasgaon county of Maharashtra. This is all drought-prone area counties of Maharashtra. 3, 4, 5, this thing we grew pomegranates and vegetables and leafy vegetables, fruit vegetables, and fruits. All these things were grown by them. But they proved by collective, some experiments were done by collecting money by many people, and once the first 2 experiments were successful, then banks started giving them loans. So this should be going, experimentation should go from the farmers themselves. The experiment which is in situ experiments, for example, one of the good scientists, actually, Ambedkar, which I worked with, he said that only 10 R land, that means 1/4 of the acre land, is sufficient for getting thriving of the family at the professor's salary level. But that requires so much of the biomass, so much of this and so much of that, which is not there available in those guntas, we say, that much land. So that should be bought from somewhere. There are no forests, there is no tree cover there. From where it will come? So that is bought by them, by experimenters, from many people. So these propositions are not workable propositions. Propositions should be based on how much the real experimenting farmer, toiling farmer, not the big farmer, the family farmer can do that much land, and how much then is required for cultivating that much land in organic fashion. So that is being done in some of the areas, and now with water distribution in equitable manner, this is going to be very easy for them to choose the crops and etc. Nobody is cultivating in that area. Very less number of people are cultivating sugarcane or any monocrop like that. But chemical farming also will go away with this. But there should be a different kind of way.
Yeah, David, and there's someone behind you too. So maybe, yeah, go ahead.
So I was struck in the response that you gave and throughout the talk about how much sort of the movement generates its own expertise, both in critiquing major figures, but also in generating expertise around agriculture.
I'm not getting you properly.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was struck by how much the movement generates its own expertise and its own knowledge, and doesn't rely on the knowledge of others, both when critiquing Marx or with agriculture. And I was wondering if you thought that was sort of a critical aspect of empowerment, of building up the movement and empowering the movement.
Yeah, so what David is saying is that, what's so...
How the experiments are done.
But part of your work with Shramik Mukti Dal has also not been only telling people what to do, but involving them in political education, right? And you said that we put Marx even under scrutiny. So could you talk more about how that's a distinguishing factor or feature of Shramik Mukti Dal in your work?
Now, first of all, he talked about experimentation. Expertise. So expertise are developed along with people, by us. So we didn't take the advice only of experts who have done good experiments in agriculture, but we take that information, knowledge to the farmers, and we do experiments on farmers' land themselves, done by farmers themselves. And there the final conclusions are coming up. So that's why they are becoming irrefutable. Otherwise, they will not stand, because otherwise that would be the experiment in the in a closed door kind of a thing. So you take this example only. Generalization would not be possible. So I am not an agriculturist. I was doing agriculture, but by education I am not agriculturist. But I became agriculturist along with people by participating in this, many people like me. And because of that, this couldn't be refuted by the government experts, because we had concrete results there. So they couldn't refute it. So they first said, how this is possible? So we said, that come and see, this is possible. And that gave confidence to the people themselves. At the same time, actually our theory, general theory, also changes along with this. In a sense that Marx's real end of first volume of Capital, real end means there is another chapters also, industries and agriculture also. These chapters are there, but where he says that it is negation of negation. So what is the conclusion? Conclusion is that all the means of productions are created out of collective labor of the laborers, and now this is a congealed labor, accumulated labor, that is captured by the capitalists. Now this would be taken over by the workers, so there is a negation of negation. So here the structures and content of the structures and methods used for production are taken for granted as non-class, class unbiased, and which is wrong, totally 100% wrong, and proved wrong now. So main conclusion of Marx was wrong, and that you have to say that Marx was wrong. And people said to us, established parties, that who are you to say that? Who are you to say that? So they said that if you have just come out of the egg now, like a chicken, and you are criticizing Marx, this big Marx. So we said that if I cannot lay eggs, I don't lose my right to criticize saying that leg is rotten. So that was our answer. We were that way very arrogant also, and we had to be arrogant. But I was the person, at least in India, I was the first person to write an article in Frontier showing that how Marx in industry and agriculture has shown that exchange of matter, healthy exchange of matter between men, he says men, so he should say humans and nature, is disturbed because of capitalism. And the height of disturbance is because of the capitalism, and more poisonous things are added to the nature. So this circulation of matter between them, balance should be, healthy balance should be re-established at a higher level. And there he mentions all the ecological factors. But that is just in 3-4 paragraphs. Then that is brought forward by some people in US, some people in Germany afterwards also. But that has become sort of at least some people know this. But that doesn't mean that he was not mistaken. So in that sense, I would say that if you are looking towards the structure as a structure, and not saying that that means he didn't have a dream of new society. That means he had a dream of half of the society is going to remain the same, half of the processes in society is going to remain the same, then only the ownership is going to change. And that was not true about all past revolutions. They were different. So when you come to know these contradictions and fallacies, is only when you remain with people and people show you the road. and you learn to convert people's contribution to theory. So as much as your contribution, so I like what I like about Gail Omvedt, not because she was my companion, but she has never written any book without participation in the movement. So her books are coming out of some movement or other which she had already participated as an activist, as a mass activist. So that should be the way of academia also, academic sector as well. Of our sector of the movement is also going from practice to theory, coming from theory to practice. So this interwovenness is there. If it is there, then only the new things are going to come up.
Yeah, I think that's such a generative exchange, really thinking about the importance of bringing together analytical perspectives and organizing perspectives and what's possible. That's a very robust intersection. So to close, we have one last question if you want to pose it briefly, and I'll invite you to make a last remark after you respond to this person.
So within the young people of the left in India right now, there is this constant debate of this language of identity politics that only neoliberalism is benefiting from because it's dividing everybody. So what is your view on this in terms of forging alliances and trying to organize on the ground? So how is that, how are those lines blurred?
So this also?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I think that young generation should seek Begumpura. And many the young people, surprisingly so, liked that book. I'm mentioning that book only not for Raidas, but it is Tukava and many other saints who also dreamt about alternative society. This is the old kind of a trend. So they, our generation in USA in late 60s and early 70s, our generation in India, all over India, not only in Maharashtra, in Europe, in Germany, in France and in Britain, what was that? It was a mad generation. We were saying that we dreamt of something and we will. So brothers, mothers and fathers, you should understand that your daughters and sons are not under your command. That song can come because of that only. So that kind of thing should be there in front of today's young generation. And I think with the way in which youth participated in movement in JNU, movement of Shaheen, in Mumbai also there was a movement like Shaheen, and all over Maharashtra it spread up. Youth is participating in these kind of things. I think that that generation can come up with and stand on the shoulders of the history, because they will see more than our generation. But only thing that they should become mad, really mad, and look for the dreams of future, because they will see more from that position than our generation. This is sort of emotional response, but that is love, emotions and theory. If together goes together, only the way is found. Without love, theory is dry. You know the Pisarev quoted by Lenin, that you are saying that you are dreaming. My dreams are necessary dreams, and my dreams are rooted in soil. So unless, up to the point they are rooted in soil, my dreams are helpful and my dreams are not going to go astray. So every generation, those generations also saw some dream. This is a time, I think, that time has come to again coming up with that kind of a new generation of you people young people today. And but there is another thing I will say, that if there is no passion for theory, I will tell you that I was taking gate meetings on the textile mills. First gate meeting used to be of the first shift people going inside. It was 7:30 in the morning. I was coming from Dombivli, means it is 1.5 hour from there by local train. But while coming, I was reading Capital. And Capital was not easy for me. I was coming from the rural area. My English was not good. Even it is not good now. And but I read it. I read all the volumes finally. But I understood it. Whether I expressing it, I can write in grammatically wrong English, but maybe I'm theoretically correct. But that I did. I read Rosa Luxemburg. I read people like Clara Zetkin. I read many names I can mention. Whatever the non-traditional Marxism was there from beginning of the, actually in a way, Eleanor Marx criticizes, without saying it, Marx, saying, parodying him about women, that women, if women are women for struggle of women for liberation, they would be supported by men, but women are going to liberate themselves. The same sentence which Marx has said about working class, he working class. So that was there in her also. So that kind of passion for theory should be there. Without theory, something can happen that people would go on dying and revolting, and they will have concepts which are age-old concepts. And that has happened in India. Particularly India or any Asian countries, South Asian countries and Arab countries and African countries. Basically what was called as, in Samira means language, as a third world countries, they people did this. People had many times stuck in model of Russian Revolution, model of Chinese Revolution, etc., without anything developing in any theory. So this microscope is very important. You should have a microscope in hand and passion for theory also.
I think that's a really lovely place to close. Your life's work really does emphasize the interconnection between theory and love and emotion, and even all of the writings that you've done have also emphasized these connections between cultural production and also material struggle. So I was going to invite you to share with us, I know the word dream is an important part of your work, and if you want to, just as a final remark, share with us one of the dreams from Ravidas, or, there are so many other anti-caste intellectuals that Dr. Omvedt wrote about in Seeking Begumgar. If you want to just leave us with a specific imagination.
I think there is an attempt, which I will tell you that, attempt to have an all India movement, because there is a need to have a movement against fascism in India, Brahmanic, casteist fascism, corporate fascism in India. But if we have this struggle against fascism and think that fascism could be defeated on the basis of opposition to fascism, then it would limit itself to the electoral politics. And whoever are in electoral politics, anybody of them can become fascists. Anybody of them can become Brahmanic also. But people have shown that they can become. They have proved that they can become that. So if after death of Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi can put the Yadnopavit, sacred thread on him like he is a Brahmin, Pandit, Kashmiri Pandit, then anything can happen. So you cannot say that it is not going to happen with other parties. So if this anti-fascist movement this time, emergency, struggle against emergency, I was underground doing underground movement during emergency, and I didn't get caught. And I'm proud of it. I didn't get caught. So, despite that, I was doing mass movement and not just distributing leaflets. But this is different. This is very complicated, and because this is Brahmanic, corporate, plus casteist and patriarchal. All these things coming together, concentrated manner. And if you are going to oppose this and defeat it, then negative opposition is not going to work. Like it was against Hitler. It was also a negative opposition. And what came after that was imperialism of new kind. But this time it is not going to work also. You have to put forward your own dream first. And through the lens of those dreams, you appeal to the people that we are going to defeat fascism, mass of the people. And if that happens, then only it is going to get defeated. People are ready to come. There is some kind of a opinion in India, sort of a sadness in India, saying that people are not coming on the streets. That is not our experience. If you propose to the people in a proper way, people in hundreds and thousands are ready to come on the streets. But you should tell them that what is that you want to achieve. Opposing this and opposing that is not going to work for people. So we are considering this while coming together at national level today, and this is the kind of a hope which I would say is there, and as much help people are going to get from various countries, people will get, and Indians are all over the world, so they will also help. But this is with the dreams, and this is good thing, that good sign that people have started coming together. People who are not tied to the electioneering, tied to the election in mind, and not changing the society. So that is good sign, and I hope that generation of your age in India is coming in these discussions and coming, and that would be the strength, that is going to be the strength of this movement. When it would be a big movement, I cannot forecast, but I think that within 2 years, 1.5 to 2 years, it is going to be a good big trend in India. So with that note, I would say.
Thank you again so much.